Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of No Holds Barred. That's Sal.
Okay.
And if you're watching us on Spotify or YouTube, you'll notice that we've got a special guest this week. That's Esheru.
Good afternoon.
And I'm Don. Together, we're going to take a look at all things political, social, and anything else we can think of. No Holds Barred. Thanks to everyone who's been watching us and listeners on Spotify, on YouTube recently. Our numbers are ticking up a bit, and it's getting there, so that's great. Thank you for that. That being said, we'd still love you to send in some of your own righteous rants, as Esheru did a couple of episodes ago, so that's cool. We'll feature you, and we'll talk about it on the pod. All the contact details will be in the show notes, so have a look at that and get in touch. Send us a video, a voice note, anything else you're fired up about, angry about, and we'll get on and have a chat about it. And you could even be a guest on the pod. Lastly, before we start, we'd love it if you do listen or watch us, if you would like or review or give us a little 5-star review, it would really help. It boosts our sort of listings up in Spotify. So anything we can do to spread the love, that would be fantastic. Right, let's get on with it. So, we're going to start with you, Sal.
PMQs. Little roundup.
PMQs.
I'll try and be as quick as I can. It wasn't so bad this week.
No.
He started out talking, he got questioned about the winter fuel allowance, about his reverse ferret on that. And said he will look at it as part of the next fiscal event, assuming he means the autumn budget, is it?
Yeah, it'd be October, I think.
Yeah. Bad Enoch was there, of course. Asked interestingly if he would rule out tax rises this year. And for the first time, I think, I was quite happy to see him wipe the floor with it and actually not answer the question. So I'm down with that. Notwithstanding, she's the ultimate fucking hypocrite. It's just outstandingly bizarre. Ed Davey stood up and asked about the benefit cuts because obviously the carers thing is his baby.
Yeah.
Because removing PIP from people will remove carers entitlements. There's a long list of things it will remove from people, but that's one of them. And Starmer's response was to talk about helping people into work and reforming the benefit system. In better news, he said that criminals will now be, I'm not sure if the word forced was used, but they will be it will be mandatory for criminals now to attend their sentencing hearings, and they will have to listen to their victim impact statements, which was what the question was about, because there was a lady who didn't get the justice of being able to read her impact statement in front of the criminal.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. All happy about that. I can't remember who stood up and asked, but one of the Northern Irish MPs asked why they're having to pay EU tariffs on steel and America don't. Which, you can see why. And then we have more waffle about how Starmer said it was important tariffs are reduced, and he's continuing to work on that, so complete non-answer. The SNP wanted to know why we're still selling arms components to Israel, which is something I think most of us would like to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his response was risible. It was absolutely risible. It wasn't just what he said, but the tone and the manner in which he delivered it. He literally muttered under his breath. Like, who understands trade dealing, please, that isn't in the actual job of having to deal with them? And if you're never going to tell anyone how it works or what's working or the process or anything about it because you're too scared of being found out, this is going to be the upshot. He wanged on about, it was literally like that. We contribute to a fighter jet pot. And if we stopped contributing to the fighter jet pot that other countries put into, no other countries that need fighter jets would be able to use it. It sounds incredibly contrived to me. He basically said if we stop supplying Israel, we'd have to stop supplying everyone. That was the long and the short of what he was saying. It's not splitting the atom, son.
No.
It's not the case.
Have they considered maybe sitting down and talking for once? It's something that they seem to never ever do. They all seem to want to just go straight to. I mean, it's just a thought.
They don't have an open mind, though, do they? They're completely myopic on the end game of wealth and power, I think. And that was about the size of it. And I listened to it all this week.
Yeah, I only dipped in and out this week, but I did realise that Kemi Badenoch asked a question that had already been answered before the session. Well, before it went on to the TV questions about the winter fuel allowance being rejigged, U-turn as it's being branded. But Kemi Badenoch sort of asked two questions, I think, although Starmer had already said that he was going to sort of change the threshold anyway, didn't he? So made her look a little bit more foolish than she often does. So she did all right.
She's out of her depth anyway. I think I've always seen her as she's just warming the seat for whoever comes along and takes the spot and leads them into the next general election, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I 100%
Speaking of those people, I've just seen on Twitter a clip of Wilbur Frost on Sky News absolutely destroying Generic. Why don't they do that with the actual government in charge at the time?
And also Nigel Farage. I mean, I can't think of a politician that gets their stomach rubbed as if they're a pet dog more than Nigel Farage. I'm sorry.
Don't apologise, it's a fact.
A few days ago, this what really grates me. A few days ago, we had this big furore around the whole Brexit thing with Starmer and, the Brexit betrayal, which, was all lies. But where was Nigel Farage? He was nowhere to be seen. And no one speculated about his whereabouts. Remember, he was Ministry for Fisheries, right? He was part of the Fisheries Ministry, when he was an MEP. He visited one of 42 meetings, okay? This was a man that... he was behind the whole Brexit. He was an architect, but he was nowhere to be found, and nobody even questioned his whereabouts. Where was he that particular day, or the 2 days that ensued after? He wasn't around. Just disappeared.
I don't know how Clacton are putting up with him.
I don't know if it was during PMQs or after, but Starmer actually, credit to him, had brought that up in the House and said...
that was very funny.
And he did mention it, and he said, oh yeah, I noticed the member for Clacton's you've been one of the first to use the e-gates as part of our new Brexit reset deal. He's in the south of France putting his feet up. So, he's a liability, Nigel Farage. He's not there to do the job, is he? He's there for the money and the sort of kudos that it gives him, but that's it.
Well, this man's getting paid God knows how much. He's in the millions, per year, and this is the thing that really gets me. When I listen to people, his supporters, and they'll say things like, he's a man of the people. And I'm like, what, because he stands and drinks beers and smokes a cigarette on camera? That doesn't make you a man of the people. The man's privately educated. He's on a seven-figure salary from about 10 different businesses. I'm sure he sits on the board of several companies also. He's not a man of the people. He's part of the 1%.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, he's an elite completely. He 100% is. Yeah, I mean, it was when he was up at British Steel, when it was about a month ago, when they were sort of about to renationalise, and he sort of said something along the lines of, I used to work in metals as well. And he was a commodities broker. He was sort of trying to pretend.
That's right.
Sorry?
He sold gold, didn't he?
That was it. Commodities broker, and he was trying to make out that he was some sort of hard-working, labouring steel worker.
Going back to Esheru's point, though, more than that, these people are so obvious. He came out and slated the fisheries deal, which is the deal that he's been supporting for years.
Correct.
He's just a paid contrarian shit.
Well,
yeah, that's it.
Like the rest of them, right? So if you look at the, I mean, that right wing is.
He's the epitome, though, isn't he?
Well, absolutely, but I mean, these people are paid. They're paid to disrupt. They're paid to spread lies, misinformation, hate, disillusionment. This is what they're there for. And if they very rarely get back to you if you challenge what they've got to say, and when they do, they shut you down.
These evasive tactics, they're manipulated.
Well,
they're not rational, stable human beings who should be in power.
I had this morning. Daniel Finkelstein, who writes for The Spectator.
Oh, he blocked me.
Yeah, he blocked me today because he wrote something about Malcolm X and how his divisive rhetoric it's his 100th, but Malcolm X's birthday, I think, was on the 19th of May. He would have been 100 this week had he still been alive. So he used Malcolm X's birthday to trash Malcolm X and why he believed in Martin Luther King. So I proceeded to ask him if he knew anything about Malcolm X, because if he obviously did, he wouldn't have made such an ignorant comment. And he got back to me and said, well, I mean, I can share it if you guys like. Maybe you can put it up on the screen for the listeners.
Yeah, we will.
And I actually challenged him and says, well, I'm prepared to go toe-to-toe with you. Let's have a conversation about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. My bookshelf is full of these guys. I know it inside out. And he blocked me. Completely blocked me.
They can't argue. They get absolutely buried. That's why we put a call out to ask anyone from Reform to come on and debate with us. Didn't even get a bot.
They're scared that their lies will get exposed. That's the thing, because they lie and it goes one way. They're never challenged. This is the thing.
Exactly.
And that's literally what we're doing here, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
Finding out the narrative.
Yeah. I like to think we're sort of at the grassroots of trying to challenge like this mainstream bollocks that we're sort of forced to watch. I wrote something this morning about it. Like you said, Wilfred Frost had a good go at Jenrick this morning, and he did, which was really good. But previous to that, they had Richard Madeley having a go at him. He soft soaped him, and Madeley very much agrees with Jenrick. And I just wrote a post and saying, well, how are we being led around by the nose by fucking Richard Madeley, for God's sake? Like this. He's forming political opinion for such a large amount of the public. Madeley.
But this is another area of Britain that is problematic. The media itself, the majority of people that have the key decision-making roles within media, people that are privately educated and privileged backgrounds, it then creates a media landscape where you have the same continuous opinion. Very few people are challenged, and when the people that they are sitting with and talking to are people that come from the same political privilege background as themselves. So you never really get a nuanced debate. It's usually like head nodding and agreeing and moving on.
Culture wars killed journalism, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Form opinions are shaping narratives. That's all they do. It no longer informs the media, unfortunately, and this is why we're here doing this.
Yeah. Absolutely. It needs to be challenged. There needs to be some people that will step up and say, look, no, this isn't right. This isn't the way we need to be. There are other people out there that can talk to politicians or anything, that if they got given the chance would actually put up a small challenge, a fair challenge, but a challenge nonetheless.
People that sound like us with normal accents, not from the upper echelons of society that are privately educated, people with real life experience that could tell you how
lived experience. Something politicians don't have, and every one of them should have to have.
But which is why I'd like to see more diversity in politics. And when I say diversity, I don't mean colour. I'm just talking about diversity of background and life experience. I'd love to. That's what I need to see in politics across the board. Yeah. We just don't have enough representation, unfortunately, and this is where politics lets us down.
Yeah, I agree fully. Yeah, it's even people that are considered kind of, in inverted commas, on the left, who are a bit more. I would agree with more in politics and the way they look. The commentators, that they all still come from that private educated background. That's they've got to where they have because of that reason. They don't. Everyone gets a little leg up whether you're on the left or the right because you've come to the right school.
That's right.
Graham Hughes from Politics Social calls the private school mafia.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But the only difference between us and them is the fact that they went to a specific school and are able to form the network from a very early age. If you and I, if we'd had the opportunity, we would have done exactly the same thing. A lot of these people are not more intelligent than us. They don't have more experience in life than us, but they just in the right place.
Of both.
Yeah, they're in the less, they're around the right people in the right people, the right places, and this is what opened doors for them. But intelligence has nothing to do with it.
No, yeah, that's very, very true.
In it.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
it's just who you know, not what you know.
And do you know what? I wouldn't give a shit, except it's killing people and destroying lives by the million.
But this is absolutely, and this is the problem. As I said, my earlier point, I want to see more diversity. I want to see the the building engineer that became housing minister. I want to see the doctor that became health minister. I want to see the council estate man that became the education minister. You know, this is what I want to see in politics. We need that right now. We need parliamentary, we need electoral, we need legislative reform. And I'm of the belief that nothing will change. Reform can get into power, but nothing is going to change because it doesn't matter which party's in. It's the system that's broken. The system needs changing. Then we can look at how to then build the country. Reform can come in. We'll get another 5 years of nonsense. I'm sorry.
Manifesting stuff.
No, I'm not. I'm not hoping they come in, but I kind of feel like what I do feel, if I'm not taking too much of this space, what I do feel is that Britain kind of needs to go through this right-wing shift. It needs to get it out of its system. This is kind of how I'm rationalizing, because it just feels like it's heading that way. And it isn't necessarily the people, but we're being manipulated by the media to believe that reform are a lot more bigger and more popular than they are. I believe that they're not, but I believe that, when they talk about the silent majority, it's actually a very loud minority, but they have access to the biggest platforms with the widest reach, and they can create this environment that makes it look like most people are disgruntled and unhappy with foreigners coming in. When I walk down the street and I see my neighbors, or I walk into my local shop or my local bar, it's none of the sort. Everybody just gets on. Everybody's cracking on. We're trying to get ahead to the next day, right? And we don't want to hurt anybody in the process. So I don't buy all this. The whole country, it's a small group of angry people that feel hard done by, but they're turning to the wrong people for the answers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
But to be fair, there is no right people to turn to, really.
No.
The Green Party, who have, they've got slightly bigger numbers than Reform, I think.
Yeah, they've got much bigger.
Council seats they have,
It's who do you turn to? Corbyn was supposed to be starting a party up in January.
I think that the time for Corbyn, he should have started his party and challenged Labour during the general election. I think that's kind of my belief. I'm not sure if it was the right time for him, but I think he should have challenged Labour. Join maybe Galloway. People say Galloway's divisive.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. Whilst I agree with him on the Palestine issue, obviously, I find him to be he's the Nigel Farage of the left.
Okay.
Without the money behind him. That man has literally jumped from council seat to council seat just to try and get elected. He doesn't give a shit about the people he's serving. He just gives a shit about having the platform.
I'm not a fan, but it was just more.
No. I'm just putting it too kind of thing.
It was
I used to like him.
Disrupting the status quo. I think that would have sent some shockwaves through Westminster if he and Corbyn, one led from the centre left and the other one led from the far left. It would have sent shockwaves through the corridors of power and shaken things up a little bit. I don't know. It's just my thoughts.
I mean, I don't think he's terribly dangerous because he doesn't have the platform Farage has got, notwithstanding he's trying for it. But I think people have got his number by now. He's literally jumped from seat to seat to seat. He doesn't give a shit about doing the job he's supposed to be doing. He just gives the shit about people knowing who he is. And notwithstanding, he went schmoozing with the tape runners a couple of weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah,
I think. Nice segue, I believe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
is that segue?
Yeah. Sorry, I missed my cue there. Yeah, yeah. We were gonna. I got a note on. I got a note from our incredible theme tune producer Zomby Pop on Twitter a couple of days ago about this. Yeah, he wrote our theme tune, and I've got a treat which you don't know about yet, Sal. But him and his compatriot Jim Nauseum, they work together, and I dropped him a message yesterday saying we were going to mention briefly that the young lads in Reform, the new councillors, it's quite a big kind of crossover with the Tates, and seem to be kind of interlinked, which is kind of worrying. So I asked Zombie if he had any videos that he could send us to just insert as clips. So him and Jim Nauseum have created one specially for us, and it dropped in my inbox literally about 2 minutes before we hit record. It's brilliant. I'll send it around later so you can see it, but it'll be in there about here.
Tate was a very important voice for an emasculating. I mean, you three guys, you're all 25, you're all youngsters. You're kind of being told you can't be blokes. You can't do laddish, fun bloke things. Damn good job that wasn't around when I was 25, I can tell you.
He literally thinks for himself. He believes what he believes in. He follows his beliefs, which I think is absolutely crucial for any individual in life.
That's almost what you're being told, that sort of masculinity is something we should look down upon, something we should frown upon. The men are becoming feminine and the women are becoming masculine, and it's a bit difficult to tell these days who's what. And Tate fed into that.
In the edit, but it's a strange Farage sort of bigged him up, didn't he? He sort of said, young men looking up to him and stuff. And it does seem to be
Bentel, Jesus, and they're such pathological narcissists. All the evidence is recorded by themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, they're very dangerous guys, those two, I think, and I think these young men, particularly these young reform counsellors, that seem to be really sort of idolising the Tates and this kind of like extreme incel masculinity is not the right word, misogyny, sorry. And it's worrying that they're now in council positions across the country. That's all. I think we need to look at that and be a bit wary of what's going on with them.
Can I just note? Sorry.
No, please continue.
No, I was just going to say, if anybody wants to get up on what's going on with the Tate brothers, the accounts Gadget and Murder by Crayons are fabulous. My God, the work those boys have done is just brilliant. I mean, they're doing what the people like J.K. Rowling pretend to do. They're genuinely trying to protect women. And the hours and the work they put in is fabulous. So thank you, boys, for standing up for what's right.
Which makes a great segue to the point I was going to make about a tweet I sent last night. One of the worrying things I'm finding when I'm looking online is the way that people are talking about women. Yesterday, Bonnie Blue, there was a film of her being arrested. I'm not sure if it was real or if it was staged, but the language around how people described her, and I tweeted that I don't necessarily agree with what she does, but she's still a woman, and you still need to respect talking about her. The whore and all these kind of this. And I thought to myself, men shouldn't be speaking like this about women in any, no matter what she's doing for a living. It's her body and it's her choice, right?
Mm-hmm, of course.
And she's not harming anyone directly.
But this is it. But the Tate and the whole incel phenomenon is fueling this hatred or dislike for talking about women in this very derogatory way. It's wrong. It's actually that's something I find very alarming, actually.
That's just reminded me, this whole Reform Tate thing came about. I don't know if it was the same thing. Did you? Maybe even I sent it to you, Don, I'm not sure. The Politics Joe interview with the Reform Party Keele University boys.
Yes, you did send it to me.
Oh my goodness.
Did you see that, Esheru?
I didn't, unfortunately. Yeah,
it's really...
You wouldn't have thought these people were born of women.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes, it's when they're asking, there's a guy with black hair and a black top, right? Yes, I've seen the one. And they're talking about, yes, I've seen it. It is shocking. It's very shocking.
Well, I watched the whole sort of 20-odd minute video on YouTube that I think you sent.
Show for anyone who wants to go find it, sorry.
That's right, yeah. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's about is it Lancaster or Keele University have got
it was Lancaster, you're right. I'm sorry.
And so they've set up a reform society at university on the campus, and they're sort of interviewing. Well, there's only 3 men, as far as I can see, that they interviewed.
There's 26 in the whole group, though, Don.
So he said, but they all go to a different university, right?
I know.
But it was just red flag central, especially that one guy with the ponytail who was just talking about his dating and how difficult it was. But when a woman thinks I'm right wing, that's it. It's a red.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On YouTube, The Guardian has these short 15, 20-minute clips, and they covered the latest reform conference in your party conference in Birmingham. And they were there talking to young men as to why they voted reform. And it was about this one particular subject. It's available on YouTube if anybody's listening. And of course, they concluded that a lot of these young men are drawn to Andrew Tate. They're drawn to people like Conor McGregor. They're drawn to, is it the UFC fighting? And they find...
It's the alpha male thing, isn't it?
Yeah, basically camaraderie and it's this women want us to have all these things set out in front of us before we date a woman, and I sat there thinking, I think I retweeted this and said it has nothing to do with what women want. It says you just got to have confidence and treat a woman with a bit of respect and just be yourself. You know, if a woman sees potential in you, she'll be with you. She's not worried about the car. You know,
the irony being that these people, these guys, are the antithesis of male insecurity. That's where it all comes from.
That's it.
Because they've got a great big hole in here and they don't know how to fill it, and they think that they need to fill it with things that will make people view them as superior, like a nice car, loads of money, whatever. Instead of going away and realising what's actually wrong with them and developing EQ.
That's right. Spot on.
Well, about 3 years ago, I was out in London, sort of near Old Street, and we were just sitting at the bus stop waiting to get the bus back to a hotel. And there was two lads, maybe, I'm guessing about 17, 18 there, sitting at the bus stop, and we ended up just chatting to them. It was quite late. We had a drink and what have you. And they specifically, it was me and my partner, and then they said to me, "What do you think about Andrew Tate?" And I was like, "What?" Right? And I said, "He's a bad guy. He's a bad role model." And we talked for about 10 minutes before the bus came, but they were adamant that this man was what they needed to be a good young man. And these are the young men. So that was about 3 years ago. I guess these are the sort of 3 years down the line, and they're still looking at Andrew Tate, even though he's a criminal and all the things that he's accused of. And
he's not even a good kickboxer.
No.
He brags that he's like a championship kickboxer, but if you know anything about the MMA scene, you'll know that they have these little regional shows, and they're on little regional shows, and people can go and win fabulous trophies and medals, but they are little regional shows. He's not like a national,
No. It's just
like
it was really strange.
Played rugby for Lancashire.
I mean, it's he and his brother are not people that I spend too much time thinking about. Russell Brand is another one. I just kind of find that they are not what society needs. I think about all the things that we need in society, but society seems to be pushing these kind of people. Jordan Peterson's another. Catherine Barbell Singh. I mean, we don't need these they are toxic individuals. We do not need these people in society. We need a difference. We need something else.
I don't think society per se is the problem. I think the side effect is the effect on society. And I've lost my thread now. That's really annoying. It happens sometimes, Esheru, sorry.
It's just
it's the culture war driven by the patriarchy, who have realised what's going to happen now. The internet's here and we're all instantly connected and sharing information and going, oh my God, is that, oh wow, is that how that works? Wow, okay. And we're all getting onto them and they're panicking. And I think this is their answer to what they know is coming, which is it's got to be, we're overdue a revolution. We need revolution. And they're going to get it when it comes. I just hope it's within my lifetime.
But let's remember, revolution doesn't have to be bloody. It doesn't have to be noisy.
Oh, just do nothing.
Yeah, but
taught us that.
But this is one of the things I've been advocating. I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been telling people that what we need to do in order to disrupt the political system, instead of going out and voting, what we should try and do is, well, you can cast your vote if you like, but what we need to do is withhold our labour and withhold our money. If we were to sit at home for 1 week, make sure you have all what you need for a week at home, okay? Withdraw your labour and do not spend any money online. Yes, take the dog for a walk, take the kids out to the park. But if you stay at home just for 1 week, you'd have the country's leaders exactly where you want them, and we'd be able to make the
My
demands.
suggestion was to do it once a week until they capitulated and brought back democracy.
Even that can work as well. And it's something I strongly advocate. We don't need to be on the streets demonstrating. We don't need to do petitions. Stay at home where you're safe, because the police can't do anything to you if you're at home, okay? You can
Civil
walk
disorder, sit down, do nothing.
Absolutely. Withdraw labour and don't spend money. I agree, 100%. This is the way that we should tackle this thing. I'm a big advocate
It's
for
the
it.
only way. It's all
It's
we've
the only
got.
And then but I hate when people say, "Yeah, but you've got loads of money, you can afford to do that." I'm looking at the greater good. I'm not, it's about.
I've got no money. I've got nothing. But what I do know is that I can cope. Something that those people cannot do, because just like AI, their wealth has enabled them to forget how to do things because they can pay other people to do them. So they will fall to pieces, and we'll all be like, "And what? Borrowing? We can borrow from each other. We can look after each other. They don't have that."
I think it's something that this society needs. We need that. That's the kind of revolution that we need, because the ballot box didn't work. Petitions they never listen to anyway. We've demonstrated these things do not work anymore.
They're trying to close that down, aren't they? They're now asking people on like potential conspiracy to demonstrate or something. I can't remember what the phrase I saw was, but.
And there was some talk about banning strike action, I believe, because I think there's something they kind of anticipate. That's what I'm saying. People need to withdraw their labour. The only way we can fight back is by not spending and withdrawing our labour. That's it.
It would work. Yeah, 100%.
I believe we've all got to be on the same page. That's the thing. We all have to be on the same page. We have to get everyone to understand that we all want one thing in this life, right? That's happiness. However that looks, it's the one thing that we all want, and we all have to be on the same page. Put our petty differences aside. The greater good is children are going to get fed. The children are going to get a good education. We're going to get to see a doctor when we need it. Prices are going to come down in the supermarkets, and rent and mortgages are going to be affordable. That's what we're looking for out of all of this. And until you can comply with these things, we'll withdraw our labour.
Yeah, totally agree. On a similar note, sort of a segue, Don, I very cheekily asked you to watch a film this week, because did you manage to watch it?
I haven't had it. I've got it. I found it. I haven't had a chance.
Don't say
73.
Okay.
You've seen it, haven't you?
I've seen it. I watched it at Christmas. Came out, I think, December 26th, I believe it dropped. Yes.
I want Don to watch it for obvious reasons to you. But I want to talk about it because it needs to go viral. Everybody in the world needs to see that film. It's incredible.
Yeah, talk about it. I will watch it.
No, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm just going to say everybody should go and watch 2073, wherever you can find it. Samantha Morton's absolutely brilliant. It's not all fictional. What it is it's a docu-film that projects where we are now into the future and how it's going to end up. And it's something that validated the hell out of me, because I've been talking about it for years now. And going discussing things with psychologists, not about myself, but about the way the world is, because it's going one way, and that is to wipe out our species. Well, if you look at all the dystopian fiction that you've read growing up, and all the dystopian films that have been made, it's almost as if some people sat down somewhere and said, let's use these as instruction manuals. So yes, 2073 is something that I can definitely advocate people watching. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have watched it by next Thursday. I just haven't had a chance this week, so I will definitely watch it. I've got it though. I downloaded it, so I will watch it.
Watched it. This is to everybody. Once you've watched it, go and find 2 friends to watch it, and tell them to find 2 friends to watch it.
Cool. Good plan.
That's it. While we're on the subject of films, you mind me just chiming in here quickly? So I've been speaking to a friend who lives in the north, and he's been saying that we should V for Vendetta. He said, "Have you seen it?" Then I went, "Yeah." He goes, time ago. He says, "You need to watch it again, because it's more or less where we are today politically in Great Britain. You have to watch it." So I'm going to rewatch that over the weekend, and anyone out there,
myself,
give it a watch if you haven't, and rewatch it if you have, because my friend Keith said we're more or less where that film is, politically speaking.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that again. I haven't watched it for a very long time, but I remember it being brilliant, so I'll definitely have a look at it. Yeah. It's a very strange, talking about where we are at the moment. Staying on the TV theme briefly, I started watching the old TV show Spooks, because I love it, the old spy thing. It's on BBC. and it's very dated, but I still enjoy it. And I think episode 3 of season 1 or 4 is about the rise of the far right. And I would suggest, again, if anyone wants to look at something, this is from the 1990s. It predicts exactly where we are right now with reform. It's identical with Nigel Farage as the head of the party, and the violence that's involved and the borderline fascist kind of like overtones. But it's exactly where we are right now. So yeah, it's strange predicted sort of outcome of the far right rising up.
Yeah, very scary times, unfortunately, but let's not dwell on the negative.
No, we've gone a bit heavy again. We were just talking about Tate's. I mean, that's just something that we're going to have to keep an eye on that and keep pointing it out with these young men that are just sort of being boosted up by Reform and Farage again, and they need an eye keeping on them.
At the minute, they've got charges, their cases pending in Romania, and they keep telling people it's been dropped and it hasn't. They're just blatantly lying. I don't know why. Like, people can't go and research the truth. They've got an open arrest warrant for the UK. So the minute they step back here, they're getting in clink. And then Florida are after them as well. Except Florida have the death penalty for what they're being charged with.
Wow. Well, I saw since the Romanian election last week went kind of the way, well, sort of not the way people thought. And I think one of the Tates put out a tweet about, so long Romania. But I read, I think it was Murder by Crayons or Gadget. One of them was saying that potentially Romania could look at dropping all their charges and extraditing them to the UK because they've got a far more quicker path to arrest and prison that way. So maybe that's what might happen, because if they send them back here, then they're going to jail pretty much straight away.
Please continue.
I was just going to say, it was quite amusing. I was watching a video on YouTube that Gadget did the other day about how Andrew Tate was trying to make his criminal charges a political thing because they had elections in Romania, and he was basically saying, this right-wing guy's brilliant, vote him in, because the left-wing guy just wants to put me in prison, just wants for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason. Yeah, sure.
I'm a political prisoner.
They love that word, don't they? Political prisoner and persecutor. I keep hearing even these guys who support reform talking about Tommy Robinson and this lady Lucy Connolly. Yes, I mean, we can argue that if her sentence was excessive, but to claim that she's a political prisoner, to claim that they're being persecuted by the state, no, these people are not. Tommy Robinson is a petty criminal, and Lucy Connolly is a career criminal. Lucy Connolly sent a tweet, stupidly. Let's not use alcohol as the excuse. She knows exactly what she was doing. There's other tweets of her that shows that she wasn't the greatest of character anyway. Was her sentences a bit excessive? Maybe, but I think that they made an example of her, and it could have been anybody that they made an example of it. It just happened to be her.
And why are we supposed to give a shit about it?
Because she's a
Tory.
Tory.
All the people that need help in this country, she ain't one of them. She put herself there.
The thing that really interests me, though, is all these people like Suella Braverman and Priti Patel and Rupert Lowe. They're all speaking. Boris Johnson, they're all speaking up for her. So it's like, hold on. So I can say I want a hotel of Ukrainians or a hotel of refugees burnt down, or I don't care if they're dead, and that's fine. It just doesn't make sense. That the world is upside down. How is it they want people who are criminals to be out roaming the streets? It doesn't make any sense.
I made a note about this because I've written quite a bit about Lucy Connolly, and I wrote about Boris Johnson getting involved this week. And I think Sal knows what's coming on that bit, but he's trying. I know I'm manifesting, but he's trying to make a comeback. So he's basically bandwagon jumping with the rest of them. But there's a full cottage industry has sprung up around Lucy Connolly now. And it started with Alison Pearson. Now it's Toby Young, the free speech union. What a load of joke that is. But anyway, there's this full cottage industry of Lucy Connolly, and they're all at it, as you said. But Boris Johnson now is just jumping on the bandwagon. It's mad.
It's so bizarre because she's clearly such a manipulative cow. that her own lawyer made her sign a declaration that she understood the full plea she was pleading guilty to.
She did, yeah.
She then signed that and went to prison because she pled guilty, even though she crowdfunded for a defence, like they do.
And have you?
And now she's just lost an appeal based on the fact that she signed that letter, and they're still harping on.
Unfortunately, they don't like to. They never look at the small print. It's not nuanced enough for them. Unfortunately, this is the thing. It isn't. They never do. And I think I've got 4 tweets in my phone where it was completely unrelated to the incident. But she's not a pleasant person. A lot of her.
I tweeted that today.
You know, really.
She's a vile human being.
She's not a nice person. So I'm sorry. Do I feel sorry for her? No, I don't. I mean, again, it could have been anybody. It just happened to be her, and that's it.
Yeah. To be fair, the rioter's got a few years as well.
But this is it. I mean, and again,
helped to incite them. My
but
only
this
gripe is that Farage isn't in prison.
Exactly, and then the way that the media tried to downplay all of it by saying it had nothing to do with racism. And then what really bothered me was when it ended all in the last meeting was in Walthamstow, which is just down the road from me. And there was a whole load of people. There was like a drone shot of people in Walthamstow village. Must have been about maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people there, give or take. And the Daily Express or the Daily Mail, we've defeated racism. I'm like, you guys are the problem. You are the problem as to why we're here. The hate, the lies, the misinformation on a daily basis. You guys, how can you say we've defeated racism?
Yeah,
and then now they deny it.
It's crazy, that.
Bad.
Sorry, anyway. Bruce has just come to say hello.
Yeah, so I just had to have my little say there regarding.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine, man. So that's what we do. We just sort of ramble off and go off on tangents quite a lot. And
what do you want to talk about?
I think it's a bit more relaxed, then. We don't have to worry about sticking to formats. Hence why I set up for a 2-hour video. But
so what about Tommy Robinson? We can't have a conversation about that idiot. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I don't know if it's the algorithm. I know he got released this week because he fessed up, didn't he? Because he just couldn't or whatever. But I've not heard anything.
Has he been released, or is he going to be released?
He's still. I thought he had. That makes sense.
It was announced by one of his followers that he was being released because he deleted his video that got him sent down in the first place. But one of the reasons, the
refused to do it
thing. But yeah, I mean, he's just, as you said, he's a career criminal. He's a petty thug. You know, he's nothing more. And every time I see someone put a post on Twitter about it, I'm just saying, well, you know, he could consider just not being a criminal and he wouldn't go to jail. You know, it's just pretty simple.
But I think
that's not a cool million, doesn't he?
But I think that he does it to raise money. In the very beginning, wherever he travelled and he got arrested initially, he had like a fundraiser drive. Remember when he went to Canada?
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, you got to get money for his legal team, and can you donate money? And he's got this, he's got a mailing list that he sends out. Sorry, not a mailing list, but mailing list where he contacts people based on. And these people who are on this mailing list continually gets emails. Can you donate? Can you donate? Can you donate? And I believe the fact that he's inside right now, even though you don't see much happening online, these people are receiving emails for them to donate, and the money's just building up and building up and building up. And I think he does these things, causes a bit of a disruption, then gets public sympathy, gets locked up, raises money, and he comes out. And they do it again because it's just his grift. And it works. He's found a way to flee hard work. Well, not only hard working people who are also on benefits, right? Fleecing them out of their money, and people gladly hand over their hard-earned money to him.
It's bad, isn't it?
Really?
A millionaire who gets paid by the IDF.
But this is
not the IDF necessarily, but Israel.
And he owns 4 or 5 properties. You know, he's in short of cash, but he's found a way. Yeah, he's found. Yeah, this is Irish. That's another thing as well. Irish passport. You know, and people are just like, yeah, he's a savior and he's this and this. I'm like, he's not. Anybody who is paid by a foreign government to disrupt the country that they live in is not a patriot. That's not patriotic. It isn't.
No.
Nothing they do is patriotic. That's the irony of it all. They couldn't be more traitorous if they tried.
Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, they're all the same. All the same.
Yeah.
They're not patriotic. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, not in any way.
No.
It's
But the
post-truth,
thing
isn't it?
Yeah.
with Yaxley Lemon, like, so it's Yaxley Lennon, sorry.
Right.
He before he went to prison, like this time, like you said before, he raised something like £100,000 in the week leading up to the trial for his, in inverted commas, legal defence, and then went and pleaded guilty. So, how much more obvious does it need to be to these people that he's just ripping them off for whatever he can get out of them? It's mad.
But more than that, there was one of his, I don't know what you call them, one of the saddos that followed him, that got locked up for the riots, ended up committing suicide in prison. Sorry, I know YouTube
Really?
picks up on that and doesn't like it. And they did a big old fundraiser. I mean, the man was not well when he went into prison anyway. He was addled when he did what he did on whatever the hell. He had lots of medical conditions when he went into prison, and he couldn't hack it, and he ended his life. And they then did a big fundraiser rally for him under the banner of Tommy.
I remember this now, yeah.
And they now allege that the family said they didn't want any of the money, and so Tommy took it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Crazy. I learned a new word this week, and it's called sophophobia. Have you heard of that? Sophiophobia. A new word, sophiophobia. Have you heard that?
What's that?
Sophia.
I'm going to tell you exactly what it means. So, sophiophobia is the fear of learning or acquiring knowledge. So, when you speak to Tommy Robinson supporters, you speak to anybody on the right wing, okay, you can supply them with all the empirical evidence based on scientific fact, and they refuse to take that knowledge. They would prefer to turn to the Daily Mail or to what Nigel Farage has said or what Tommy Robinson says and take that as fact over professors and empirical evidence. Sophiophobia, this is what these people suffer from. Because even when you present all these to them, they're still like, no, you're lying. He's a good guy. Stop trying to trash him, or you're part of the leftist fifth estate, or whatever.
The usual, yeah.
It's very good to have a name for that, actually.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that applies to that Lucy Connolly thing, and I wrote it in my post yesterday that the old proverb or whatever it is there's none so blind as those who will not see. You can present, it's exactly what you've just said. You present them with every single shred of empirical, credible, proven evidence. They're like, no. Tommy says differently. Nigel says differently. Yeah. So.
And I think that's certainly for me. You guys know how I am on Twitter, or what was Twitter X. I tend to come up a lot with these bigoted people, and I always try and find, when I'm talking to them, I just think, I could really beat them is if I present facts. So I always present facts, and I always present a source. And then I just keep plowing at them with that, and they can never beat me, because it usually comes down to them saying something negative, because they don't have whatever they're talking about is not based in fact. They'll probably share a screenshot. Well, can I have a source of the screenshot? Oh, you're just an idiot. They never. Yeah, it's the only way to deal with them.
It's exactly. I mean, I think there's. I don't know if it's exactly the same people, but there's definitely a big old Venn diagram crossover between the people we're talking about and Brexiteers.
Oh yeah.
Play chess with a pigeon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's almost the perfect circle, the Venn diagram there, I would imagine.
Esheru, you've, as a very, very righteous and honest man, as I know you to be, you've just told a little fib.
Go on.
Told a little fib. Because when we were having our pre-pod chat, I said I'd like to talk about epigenetics. Have you heard of it? So you've learned 2 words this week.
Right. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about it, and it absolutely relates to what we're talking about. But it's epigenetics. It's a scientific study of human behavioural and biological alteration due to environmental factors, by and large. I mean, you can go and read up on it properly, but I just wanted to put the name out there and teach people that the phrase or the rhyme sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you is the biggest load of shit ever created. Because in actual fact, if that was true, psychological torture wouldn't exist. So we put that in the bin. I understand it's a coping mechanism, but it also folds into the fact that all major life-changing experiences affect people to a cellular degree. It's not just about coping or being strong. It will affect you whether you want it to or not. And the more you bury it, the more it will affect you later on in life. And it's part of the human condition, but it's being driven negatively by these sociopaths that we've got in charge, who themselves are a product of epigenetics, because as Esheru was talking about, when these people go off to private school, through various ways and measures, they have their emotional quotient, their EQ, knocked out of them, so that they then leave private education, walk straight into a banking job or whatever the job is that daddy's got them, and they have no emotional intelligence. They just see the prize of the money and the power.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it happens in politics as well. I mean, as we know, with the Wes Streeting's Stonewall to Price Waterhouse Coopers to a government minister. Odd career path, but we now know why. And so you've got these very people. I don't think Wes Streeting is privately educated, to be fair, is he?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think.
So he's not a great example, but for those that are, it can happen to people in many ways, not just through private school. For example, my dad had it knocked out of him because he was evacuated during the war and spent 5 years on his own living with some old farming couple.
But he was forced. He was forced to grow up quickly as a result of a situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. But this is the thing, because he then turned into a very horrible person through my childhood. And all people see, as I did as a kid, is a horrible person being horrible. But because we now understand epigenetics, I now thankfully understand why he was like that. Yeah. And you can apply that universally.
Oh.
And it is literally a neurologically cellular issue. It's not just about the actions in the here and now. You know, you could brain scan these people. You could do a SPECT scan of a perfectly healthy, normal human brain, and then you could do a SPECT scan of these people with no EQ, and their brain map would be very different, because this is a cellular thing. It's not just somebody choosing to be horrible. It's who they are. Now, some people can change. You know, I come from the other end of the spectrum, where I'm trying to change my behaviors because I was subject to a lot of the narcissistic behaviors. And that, as a kid, you just think someone's being horrible to you because they hate you. And in actual fact, it's got nothing to do with that. They're reacting to a decades-long snowball of issues that they can't cope with, and they're taking it out in the here and now. Am I making any sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's very hard to get your head around.
No, but it's tough. I think we briefly discussed before we came on show that I reading a book by a lady called Dr. Arlene Geronimus. The book is called Weathering, and it talks about the stress that the body goes under through an unjust society. So when you spoke about this happening on a cellular level, it's more or less the same thing. That when you live in a society where you're marginalized, and that could be whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or the traveler community, or you're from another ethnicity, if your life is impacted by a stressful environment because of outside influences through the state, etc., it does have a profound effect on the physiology of the body.
Yeah. It's got my worry, and why I get so enraged probably isn't the right word, because I try hard to stay away from that kind of mood. But why I'm sat here literally is because the culture war and propaganda are feeding into this epigenetics problem with all the negativity. And these people we're talking about, who are scientifically proven to be lower in IQ, let's be frank, because the right are. There are very few lauded academics that come from the right. Do you know what I mean? The proof's in the pudding. But it's predatory behaviour, because they are using people they know don't have the capabilities or the want or the need or the desperation, even in some cases, because they've been raised to be happy with their lot, whether it's decent or not. Which brings us to inescapable shock, but that's another subject. I won't baffle everyone too much this week. We need to alter our reactions, and I include myself in this completely, to these people. And I'm not saying we should go and sit and try and explain things to them, Esheru, because like you described, I grew up trying to do that for 30 or 40 years, explain myself and what was going on, and you always have to be right was usually what I got fed back to me. And it's not about being right, it's about being correct and having a good outcome. Why is it going to be about me? But it's because they're projecting.
Yeah.
So once you understand it, I don't know at the minute. I haven't given enough, and God, all I've done is think about it for donkey's years, but I haven't given enough thought to the culture war issue to have an idea of how we could defeat it. But shouting at people, and for me, it's more of an outlet than anything that's going to be of any help to anybody, because I don't know what you do with these people that have Sophiophobia.
Sophiophobia, exactly
Right.
that. I was just about to come back to that point. Thank you for bringing it back. I don't really think there is much you can do with these people, and for the simple fact is they have to come to the fruition themselves. Okay, it is like otherwise we're beating our head, banging our head against a brick wall. But the culture wars, it seems, are designed to wear us down. I don't know how many people that I speak to on X and off X who's on there that talks about how exhausted they are every single day, because it's not one thing, it's something else. And we thought after the conservatives had left office, we'd have a break of the culture wars, but no, they just ramped it up, and it wasn't just reform. Labour's involved as well. And it's like, then you get the newspapers and then the broadcast media, and it's constantly around you. It's like, I had my original X account hacked and stolen, 52,000.
I meant to mention that before, sorry.
Yeah. 52,000 followers gone. The account's still floating around. Somebody's using it, but I tried about 7 or 8 times to get it back. But when you're talking to machines, it's just you're getting bounced from place to place. There's no human interaction. Yeah. And I was off X for about 8 weeks. And I can tell you this, I've never felt, since joining X in 2021, I was late to the party. I only joined to discuss Brexit. I don't think I've felt any clearer in my head in any time apart from those 8 weeks. And they're just being away from the hate and the bile and the nonsense. And even though you say to yourself, right, I'm going to monitor myself and monitor the time I'm spending there, try and control who I speak to, it doesn't always work that way, and we can, as best as we can, pull ourselves away from it, because we can't change the minds of some of these people. We just can't. It's not our job to. They have to come to that themselves. At the same time, nice sitting in an echo chamber watching, you want to have discussion about various subjects, right?
And I agree with you, and I think it's very important we do take time away. But for me personally, and for a lot of people in my disabled community, we have to be on there, and we have to be shouting, and we have to be publicising the fact that they're trying to eradicate disabled people, basically.
So
I trust me, I'd love nothing more than to put it down for a month, but I can't risk it.
No, I understand that wholeheartedly. And if everybody has,
might not be terribly rational, but to me, I need to be doing something to improve my lot, because all I've ever been told is you've got to help yourself. So how better can I do it than attacking the root of the problem?
There's no judgment here. Everybody uses it for, everybody has a reason for using it. So I fully understand that and get behind that.
No, I definitely agree. I even wrote something this morning after that whole thing about Richard Madeley. It's like the noise we're getting at the moment is just it's an overload. Everything is so much all the time.
Yeah.
And it's counterintuitive for people like me who spend a lot of time on Twitter and doing this podcast and stuff like that. But as Sal said, we're putting up a voice for some sort of different point of view. Hopefully, that's my sort of aim. But I think taking a break and trying to disengage from the noise for a bit, even every day, just to try and I do now. I've stopped listening to the radio so much. I've just gone back to listening to music. I've stopped I just don't check my phone as much. I get loads of Twitter notifications all the time, but I just don't look at them like I used to because I know it's not healthy and it's driving my brain a bit crazy if I do. So, yeah, it's a hysterical overload of information, and it's 99% of the time it's the wrong information. It's just designed to make us angry and whip up kind of outrage, which is not healthy for anybody.
But it suits their narrative because it raises everyone's vibrations. So even like people who are in comfortable positions that are politically aware and unhappy about it will have some form of nervous system reaction, that's negative to their health. And it suits their narrative right down to the ground. And this is why it's psychotic. If that's not psychotic behavior, tell me what is.
No, it is. So once you've listened to this or watched us, switch off, but don't watch this first and then switch off.
No, it's the alternative to Twitter because we don't abuse each other.
Absolutely.
No, that's true. We
Absolutely.
do not.
Absolutely.
No, we wouldn't. Yeah. So
I've just said, drop something in the chat, guys. I'm going to have to drop off now.
Yeah.
Lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks loads.
Thanks for inviting me. Please, I'd love to do this again sometime in the future.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime you like. Yeah, definitely. So
both are
much
amazing.
Appreciated. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Ash.
Have a good. Take care.
Bye.
Take it easy. See you soon. Bye.
Oh, you need to do some talking now. I feel like I haven't stopped. Breaking news: 2 Israeli workers have just been shot dead outside the embassy in Washington.
Yeah, I saw that that was last night. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
It's just come up on my feed.
And Israel have Israel have blamed Keir Starmer. Yeah, I just saw it come up a minute ago. Israeli ministers blamed Keir Starmer's rhetoric for 2 people getting shot.
Wow.
I know.
That's insane.
It's insane, but not surprising, is it?
Yeah, accurate. But, I mean, speaking of which, be interested in your opinion. There's a theory, how Lammy and Starmer this week have done a massive reverse ferret on Israel?
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to notice.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Unbelievable. It's been mooted on X that they are petrified of being indicted for war crimes. And that's why.
Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know. It's been hypothesized. They should be.
It's just, yeah, I mean...
You would think a human rights lawyer would know his onions going into these things.
Yeah. Lammy's a solicitor as well, isn't he? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole world's done a reverse ferret, as you said, this week, hasn't it? It's like suddenly, think, oh, we don't like Israel. I think since... I've got a feeling like Starmer was maybe waiting till he got this closer alignment with the EU, because I think that might be maybe have been a factor that if he's sort of not rejoined, that's the wrong word. I wish that was the right word, but it isn't. That he's now back closer to the EU. I think he feels like a bit safer in saying things speaking out against it now. I don't know, but I mean, it needs to be done. It's the right thing to do. I saw Robert Peston put out a thing this morning on Twitter about him and a load of journalists have signed a letter saying we must be allowed access to Gaza to report, and him and I don't know how many.
18 months for, please.
Well, that's exactly what I said. I said, well, this is very, very laudable and very necessary, but it feels like you should have written that 17 months ago.
Notwithstanding, I was mortified this week. I did a post about how the Israeli genocide has killed more journalists than all previous wars put together, and I thought it was 120. It's now, they reckon, about, I think it was 182.
It's crazy. So bad. Yeah. And
but at least it looks like it seems to be coming to an end now. They're all jumping on the, wrong side of history. Let's get on the right bandwagon.
It's taken us a year and a half, but we finally realised what the rest of the world's been saying for 18 months.
But yeah, journalism's dead.
Yeah, it is. It is. They're just going with the popular sort of outlook, and then they'll jump on that bandwagon and go with that. And yeah, there's very few and far between people like Mehdi Hassan, actually, who's been brilliant and never for
Yeah.
1 second said anything different throughout this whole sort
Yeah.
of horrible period.
And
Mehdi,
give him his dues, love him or loathe him. Owen Jones, fair dues.
yeah.
Lad's got integrity, whether you like him or not, he has.
Yeah, he's a controversial figure, and people really don't like him, and people do like him. But yeah, you're right. He's been
The
there.
irony of this culture war is that the more unpopular you are, the bigger your profile's going to get.
Yeah, true.
It's
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's sad. Did you see Priti Patel had the balls to stand up in the House of Commons and start criticising Starmer for the Israel stance? The woman who was, yeah, exactly, who was sacked from her job as a international development secretary for meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, not just that, but like taking a whole paid-for luxury trip paid for by Israel.
Yeah, and she was there apparently to offer UK taxpayer money to the IDF in the West Bank. That was what she was there for, sneakily, surreptitiously behind Theresa May's back. And then she's got the balls to stand up in the Commons and start going on at Keir Starmer about his stance on Israel. Yeah, not good, not acceptable.
I mean, notwithstanding, I do want to point something out just in the interest of fairness.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've made my views very, very clear about the Palestine conflict, but what I was saying earlier about the epigenetics absolutely applies to every Israeli citizen. Because notwithstanding what they went through in World War II will cause it to have an effect on them generationally.
Oh, yeah.
But the propagandization they have been under for 70-odd years is immense. And they're even teeny tinier than we are by a long chalk. And all they do is get fed, we're under attack, people are coming to get us, we're under attack, everyone wants to kill us. And so they've got this absolutely irrational fear. No one's coming to fucking get them. Everyone just wants to live in peace.
Yeah.
By and large. But Netanyahu needs his unquenchable thirst filling, doesn't it, with all his money and power?
No, I know.
All I'm saying is the Israeli people, as zeddy as they might be, there is a reason for it, and they are too deep into the cult mentality to be able to be aware of it, I think, which is probably where the Sophia-philia comes in.
So I've forgotten. I'm going to have to go back and rewind and find out.
Sophia-philia. I just remember it's named after Sophia, poor girl.
Sophiology. Yeah, right. But yeah. That's it. Yeah, you're right.
I only say that because I find personally that understanding is half the battle.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes without saying that it's not Jewish people, it's the Israeli government.
God, no.
Yeah, exactly. And those two things have to be completely separated, although, some people will accuse you of being pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, whatever, but
not
just because
every Israeli is a Zed, not every Israeli is a Jew, not every Jew is a Zed, man. So it's
exactly.
a melting pot of different.
100%.
And there are a lot of brave people willing to stand up and protest and go to prison rather than serving the IDF, and full power to them.
And there's loads of Jewish people on the pro-Palestine marches across London every time.
Yeah.
Millions of them. Well, not millions.
To be fair.
Yeah, there's loads and loads and loads, and they don't get mentioned because someone saw a Hamas flag or whatever in a crowd of 200,000 people, and that's what they get focused on. But yeah, no, it's shocking, and go on. Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah, what did he say? Yeah, I'll put a clip in. There is a clip on the Guardian, isn't there? Guardian website, I think. What did he say? I've forgotten what he said. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. So it's text. Yeah. He does it. Yeah, it's nothing to do with being politically correct. That's just being fucking out and out anti-Semitic. Yeah. No, that's wrong. Yeah, well, Yeah, yeah, they're a kind of strange lot. Mm, mm, yeah, often to be found on LBC reporters. Mm, yeah, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? So. Yeah, I saw on that the guy out of Kneecap got arrested, didn't he? Or he's been charged with terror offences because he was apparently waving a Hezbollah flag. Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know too much about Kneecap, but from what I can tell, they seem to be decent blokes, and they sort of work for both sides of the Irish kind of debate. Um, and yeah, yeah, it is. I've just got so many things at the moment I'm doing, but yeah, I've got it. They're high on my list of things to check out and work out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as you say, way to give them even more notoriety and fame than they already were getting. So yeah, those was it. Yeah, I think they said they said the only good Tory MP is a dead Tory MP or something along. Didn't they? Oh, was it? Mm. Again, goes without saying that's not acceptable. Mm. That was it. Yeah, yeah. I know what you're going to do. It's yeah. So we shall see what happens with that. I don't think it will go very far. He's not. They're not going to send him down for as a terrorist, are they? But so it's just a free publicity for Kneecap. Uh, yeah, just looking through my notes of things that I wanted to talk about this week, and we've gone through most of them, I think, already, which is quite nice, just naturally. Which, apart from the one thing, my Top Gear section about my accident that I nearly had at the weekend. And it wasn't at the weekend, sorry, it was on Monday morning. Yeah, it was pretty scary, but it just made me think about this epigenetics things and if that links because okay, for anyone who doesn't know, really quick recap is I was driving on the M4 on Monday going to Bristol and I was on lane 3 in the outside lane and I was just alongside a van and the van just pulled across to me and I had to take evasive action. Ended up in the, what do you call it, the gravel, the central reservation, missed the barrier by, I don't know, it was right by my door, the barrier, so an inch, 2 inches. And I managed to wrestle the car out of the gravel and the guy just disappeared behind me. It was a some company van, but he just didn't look and he just pulled out without thinking and I was doing 78 miles an hour or something. But I think it would have been pretty nasty had I have actually hit the barrier. But I put a post out about it and asked about people's opinions on driving, and that I don't want to turn into Top Gear because it's not about that. But an awful lot of people said to me, which I found really, really interesting, is COVID, the long-term effects of COVID, long COVID, yeah, the psychological effects, the physical effects have sent people, have shortened people's patience, their kind of cognitive ability, their spatial awareness, all these things. And so many people sent me links to interesting articles, which I'm sort of working my way through. And it got me thinking, and it's really interesting. And maybe that's this epigenetics kind of thing almost again, is that you go through, because COVID was such a huge trauma for so many people, that it's impacted on them physically, mentally, in every single way. And now maybe it's translating into this sort of epidemic of horrifically bad driving that I see all the time. Mm, mm, Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Mm. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. 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 No, it is. You're right. Yeah. That's definitely the driving situation is the entitlement of people that don't care about anything or anyone else. And yeah, yeah, no, you're right on that. And yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. Mm. Yeah, yeah, crazy, I know. Yeah. Yeah, this guy was. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, this guy in the van wasn't. It wasn't a road rage incident or anything like that. It was completely. He didn't look. He didn't think to look before pulling out. It was just that would maybe fit into what you're saying about. Yeah, he's absolutely knackered because he's been working since the middle of the night and he's on job 2 for the day. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't. Yeah, yeah. So Um, yeah, I don't know. It was a strange one. It was a very close call for me, and I just it got me thinking about the wider sort of impact on our society of why this is happening. So it's quite a curious and interesting kind of thing that sort of a near miss brought to my mind, like how the societal problem leading to these things. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? That's exactly what it is. Yeah, all matter. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but all good. As you said to me on WhatsApp, it wasn't my time. Thank God. I wasn't ready for it this week. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've only just started this. Yeah, we got plenty to do. So, um, if you've got 12% battery left, I haven't got much left to talk about. So we've got a couple of funny things that I wrote down, one of which I already said about earlier. Did we say it on the pod or was it before the pod? I want to call going forward the Darren Grimes / Andrea Jenkins special area because we have Darren Grimes or Andrea Jenkins on every week doing something ridiculous. And this week was Darren Grimes put a post out yesterday in his capacity as whatever he is at Durham Council. He's like the chair. But he's quite high. He's like the chair or the treasurer or something. Oh, he is. No, he is. And he put up video of the 3 flags outside Durham County Council buildings, one of which was the Pride rainbow flag being lowered. And he said something. In fact, I'll read it because it's just crazy. He said, "A beautiful sight," and it's the Pride flag being lowered. And the guy's gay. He's a gay man, and he's putting up videos on his social media to sort of froth up his reform fan base that are detrimental to his own lifestyle. His own, not lifestyle, his own life, his own personality. It's crazy. So and it's not funny. I don't find it funny at all. I find it really sad and depressing that he. Yeah, he is. He really is. Did you see? These are quick, short ones. You know Kevin O'Sullivan on Talk TV? Have you seen? Yeah, I tell by your face. After the Brexit reset thing that Keir Starmer mentioned or announced during the week, Kevin Sullivan put on his Twitter page, "I like standing in the non-EU passport lines. I'm proud not to join the Brussels gang losers. So you can stick your stupid e-concession where the sun doesn't shine, not interested." And I just wrote in my notes, what an absolute chump. Well, yeah, but yeah. And two last things. You sent me Matt Green's recent YouTube video about Brexit reset. Matt Green's amazing. I've been following him since lockdown, and he's brilliant political commentator, and his little videos are fantastic. I'll put a link in, but if you don't, there he is. The ever excellent Matt Green comedy. Yes, it is progress. We're in a better position this week than we were last week on the EU. So baby steps. Hopefully, we'll get there one day. And one more final thing from me is I got featured by the Poke this week, and I've been mentioned in the Poke a few times, which is always a joy. But this week, not the Pope. Oh, that would be quite something. You wouldn't. Yeah, that's not right. No, that's not something. The Poke with a K. But yeah, I was on the same picture as Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer in the Pope. They put me as their featured tweet of the week or whatever it was. So that we can put No Holds Barred as featured in the Poke and the Troll now. So yeah. Other than that, I don't think I've got anything else. Yeah, I've got nothing else. So I just wanted to say thanks again to Esheru, though, for coming on. A brilliant guest, and you'll see more of him from us, definitely. But if you don't know him on Twitter, go and follow him. He's excellent at everything. Absolutely right. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Gives a little boost. That would be much appreciated. Thanks for coming. See you next week. Bye bye.